Before we start fundamentals of the Python, let's try to understand what is programming language in the first place, right? So in this video, I'll quickly cover what is the need of programming language, what is the role of programming language, or how the programming language will be useful for the developers or the companies, right? What is the major requirement of the programming languages, right? So first of all, let's try to understand what is the language, right? Human language, basically, right? When you and your friend are communicating, right? Believing that you and your friend knows the same language. Let's say you know Hindi and your friend knows also Hindi. There is no problem in communicating you and your friend, right? You guys can easily communicate, right? So so basically, the language is the medium to exchange the information between you and your friend, and to to give the certain instructions to basically the communicating platform or communicating tool. Language is a communication tool between humans or any animals also to communicate, right? So they do have the separate language, but we don't understand it. That's a different thing. But language is a basically a communication tool to exchange the information or to give the instruction between you and some other medium, all right, some other entity, basically, right? If you know the same, if you know the common language, right? So the language is that, right? When it comes to the computer, right, maybe your friend and you and your friend or your mother or your father or knows the same language, then there is no problem at all, right? If you know Telugu, your friend also know Telugu, or if you know Tamil, your friend also knows Tamil, then there is no problem at all to communicating or to doing the things, right? But when it comes to the computer does not understand Telugu or Hindi or any human language, something it does not know Tamil or English, right? Natively it does not understand any human language. What it understand only 0 and 1. Apart from that, it will not understand anything. Computer, as I mean, like if you go to the very lower level detail, computer as I mean processor. In case if you are from EC or CSC or any core branch, you might understand what is processor, right? So processor knows only 0 and 1. Apart from that, it does not know anything, right? So so that is where the actual problem comes in to the picture, right? But before that, have you ever played the games like PUBG in your mobile? PUBG, PUBG or Free Fire, right? Or any racing games. People typically play the games, right? Have you ever wondered how the system or of course, by the way, mobile is also one form of computer because it has a processor, it has the processor, RAM, everything, every setup, similar setup is there in modern smartphones, right? So RAM, CPU, everything it will have internally. Okay, so modern mobiles, smart mobiles are also a form of a computer. Okay, so have you ever wondered, right? Have you ever wondered if when you're playing PUBG, if you click on this upper arrow or if you scope it, how the console is directly converted in the scope mode, or if you trigger it, how the bullet is coming and hitting to the other character in that particular game. Have you ever wondered how this particular setup is being done? I mean, whenever the user, basically the player, clicks on the whatever the tool, I mean, whatever the input 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 console on the console, gaming console, whatever you click on it, it will act accordingly, right? Have you ever wondered how that particular design was done, right? And also, I'm sure that most of the people might already hear the songs in tabs or in mobile or in a system, right? You might have seen these kind of symbols, right? This kind of symbols. Have you ever wondered how how this particular setup is done? When you click on the play button, how the computer knows that it needs to play the song. Whenever the user clicks on this pause button, how the computer knows that it needs to pause it, right? There must be a something being built, right, under the backend of that particular app application or the app that you're using. There must be a build. There must be some company or someone must have developed in such a way using the coding. Okay, using the coding at the low, I'm talking about the lower level. Okay, using the coding, they must have built this kind of interface. In the coding, they might mention when you're clicking on this particular play button, you have to play the song. So that instructions were the part of your application or the app, but that is not visible to you, that is hidden. But to give some understanding, I've just used this example. There are n number of examples like this, but let's just give you some idea. What are the application? What are the interaction that you are doing from the front end application? There should be definitely there will be a backend code written in such a way. Okay, that instructions were there in such a way. Okay, and as we discussed, right? Computers are very powerful. Why they are very powerful? They have very big processor, very big processor. I mean, that might be small in size, but in a I mean, in terms of efficiency and all, the processor is very powerful, and also it has very big RAM nowadays. Even mobiles are having very big RAM, and the storage, everything it is well equipped with in a small chips, right? So we can say that computers are very powerful, but it requires a clear instructions in a well determined way. Okay, and to give the instructions to the computer, right? I cannot give the instructions in Telugu or English. Of course, we can give it in English, but that's a different story. I'll tell you. But we cannot give the instruction. What I mean by we cannot give the instruction in English or Telugu, we cannot give the instructions like we give the instruction to the other human, right? We have to give the instructions in a very rule-based way. Okay, we need to give the instructions, but for that we need a way, or we need a tool to connect you and the computer for the communication, right? So one such tool or one such way is called the programming language, right? Programming language. The programming languages are like C, C++, Java. These are the examples basically for programming language. Different programming languages are there. So these are very popular programming languages, right? R, Python. There are and very programming. I mean, very much. There are n number of programming languages are available. Okay. So these programming languages help us you and processor user in the sense the programmer, it will connect the programmer to the processor. Okay, processor. So if you want to instruct something to the processor, you should use the programming language. Without programming language, it is impossible. Why? Because the processor understand the processor understand the zeros and ones, the different thing. I'll explain. But if you want to interact with the processor, programming language is only the way. Okay. And one more thing is that, so when it comes to the programming languages, right, there is a term called syntax. Syntax in the sense, so it has set of rules, right? You cannot write it in a, as ever way you want. For example, let's say if I want to learn Telugu, normal human language, right? Telugu or Hindi. So these languages will have their own set of rules, right? I cannot speak as the way I want. There are some certain rules and vocabulary or the grammar that is very much different from what the phonetics or Varnamala, whatever, right? That is very different from what Telugu is having and what Hindi is having, right? The notation, right? The readability, everything will change from Hindi to Telugu. So every language, it has own rules and regulations to speak, right? Learn or else. So similarly, syntax is also, we can think of like a rules for that particular programming language. For example, Java will have separate syntax, and Python will have separate syntax. And C language will have separate syntax. C++ language will have separate syntax. So every programming language will have their own set of syntaxes. For example, this example I have written here, this is a Python syntax. Okay, as we have seen in the earlier video, right? The first programming language, when we have written this kind of statements only. So this is a valid syntax when it comes to the Python. The intent is you need to print the hello. Okay, this is the intent. But to do that, we have to follow a certain predefined syntax for Python. Okay, so learning programming language all about learning the syntaxes apart from the logical ability. Learning the programming language. If I want to learn the Java, it means that I need to learn the syntax of Java. If I want to Python, it's nothing but I need to learn the syntax of Python. That's all. Okay, and as the intent is printing the hello here, I have to follow the syntax that's been set by the Python. Okay, Python programming language. I cannot write something like this. Print hello. This is the wrong way of doing it in Python. So this is a syntax error, it will say, because this is the correct format if I want to print hello. Even though my intent is same, I still follow this syntax. So this is a this is about the syntax. Syntax is basically set of rules that is predefined by the language. Okay, and then one more important thing we should all aware is the difference, the compiler and the interpreter, right? Remember, we have discussed that computer will only understand zeros and one. But if you see the earlier example, right, print hello, right? This is written in English. This is written in English, right? This is English, right? Yeah, this is the English, but how it understand, it needs to print hello. So there is a backend mechanism is there, which the programming itself will be taken care, right? What it does, this particular human readable format will be converted into zeros and ones in the backend, right? This conversion will be taken care, right? This conversion I'm talking about, this conversion will be either done by compiler or the interpreter. It is subjected to the programming language, right? So these zeros and ones we call it as a mission code. So the print hello we call it as a high level language, because that is very much easy, user friendly, I mean user readable program, right? The high level language we call it as high level language, high level. To the mission code, there is a conversion required to the mission code. Who will do this conversion? This compiler or the interpreter will do this conversion. So for every programming language, either we need a compiler or interpreter or assembler in very older days, but nowadays most of the programming languages using compiler or interpreter. Okay, so whatever the language, this kind of statements, right, print hello world or Python program, entire Python program, right, that needs to be converted into the mission code. That who will convert that mission code into mission code? Either compiler or interpreter will be converted into the mission code. And when it comes to the different programming language, right, C++, C, Java uses the compiler to convert this particular instructions into the mission code. C, C++, Java use the compiler. Where it comes to the Python, right, Python uses the both compiler and the interpreter. It uses the both to convert to the mission code. Right, so we will see in a further videos how it uses the both, but for now just as you just understand that it uses the both compiler and the interpreter. I'll also like to show one more example. What is the what is the need of the compiler and the interpreter? Okay, just this is one of the website I found it very useful to convert the things into the binary. Okay, so binaries are nothing but zeros and ones. For example, right, if I want to say one word hello, so this is my text in the left hand side. You are saying this is human readable format, whereas the processor, right, the processor will understand in this way. In the right hand side you could see it's all zeros and ones, right? So it is very much difficult for human to write the coding in this way, right? Even though machine understand this thing, right, it is very much difficult for human to do in this way, right? For example, this is a single this is a representation for hello. Say for example, I have a longer text, something like hi guys, how are you? If I say that, see, the equivalent output binary is this much. So whenever you want to type this kind of small things also, you have to, the processor, we need to feed in this way, which is very much difficult for the human. So that's why we do have the programming language, right? Programming language, what it do when we have this kind of instructions, like this kind of instructions, if you are using a Python, if you have if you are using the Python syntax, that syntax will be converted into the ones and zeros by the compiler or the interpreter in the backend. Who will do the who will do the translation? The compiler and interpreter will do that particular translation. That will be happened automatically when you run the program. So that's all about the programming language. In the going forward, we're going to see like foundations of the Python language. Thanks for watching. Bye.